fix that now? I hate OBS so much. Where is it? Automatically record when streaming. I swear. Oh, I need to update the episode. 26. We're doing A-Wings today? We are doing A-Wings.
I always feel like A-Wings are cooler than they look cooler than they actually are. Like I always want to fly them in game, but then I'm sorely disappointed.
Yes. That's all I have to say. Yeah, they look cool, but like once you start flying them, completely different story.
No. I shared the show notes with the Google account that I have logged in on this computer.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, that's right. I have to go to Gmail to do it. Yay. Okay. Just another one. We've been dealing mainly with canon for the past couple
We have.
episodes.
Mostly, because Ondor.
Yeah.
And I loved how there's so many Easter eggs in the last episode. So many
Yeah.
Easter eggs.
So many.
Now everybody's like theorizing. He's like, oh my gosh, are we going to get a canonical of Galen Merrick? And I was like, I highly doubt it.
How are we going to get Galen Merrick? I missed that one.
Star Killer.
Did they say something about Star Killer?
You see his Sith armor in the
I
background.
missed that.
Mm-hmm.
When?
It's during the museum where you see Moth Mothma go into the den or museum.
That's just an
Antique
Easter
shop.
egg.
But yeah, it was just an Easter egg. Everybody's like theorizing, oh my god, we could get him canon. And it's like, that's not gonna happen.
No.
I'm sorry.
It means basically that it's probably just a standard Easter egg, but also for another thing, they've said there are no Jedi, no Force users
Oh
in
yeah,
this show.
no, this show's not going to show anything. But everybody's thinking like maybe later down the road. But even then, though, it's like that's pushing it. Like if they want to introduce his character, they would have to rewrite his entire story from the ground up.
Yeah. Well, and they would. Filoni has said that he doesn't want to bring Starkiller into the thing because Starkiller is stronger than Vader.
Yes.
In every media that he's in.
Well, oh yeah, he did beat him in the books.
Mm-hmm. And so that just causes problems, which I agree with. That does cause problems.
It does. So, unfortunately, we probably will never get him. But hey, Sam Witwer is still with Star Wars because he's Maul. That's all that matters. And Palpatine.
Yes.
In the later seasons. But yeah, there's a lot of cool little Easter eggs in episode 4.
Yeah.
What else was there? There was we saw the Gungan shield. There was a tablets based off of the father, daughter, and son. I'm trying to think what else was there. I
We
know.
saw a tablet again of the Mortis people.
Was there more than just the? Because there's the ones with like their hands.
That's in Rebels. Did we see one in Andor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um. Trying to think what else was in that. There were so many little Easter eggs all over. There's like old school Mandalorian armor, like
Oh yeah,
from
I
Old
saw that.
Republic, like Old Republic armor.
Mm.
Um, there's it's only for a split second you can see like a Jedi and Sith holocron. Like
Mm.
it's blurry, but you can see them in like the background.
Right.
But yeah, so many little Easter eggs. But I am ready to start the show whenever you are.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Cool.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Welcome to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends, where we're going to take a deep dive into the lore of the Star Wars universe.
Hello, and welcome to the Holocron Histories podcast, where we talk about all things Star Wars, looking at the differences between Legends versus canon, what Disney has kept, adapted, changed, and the differences between different topics. This week, or this series, we are focusing on the starships, which there are numerous and plenty. We will be talking about starships forever. But I am one of your hosts. I am Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm your other host, Ben of Temeria. And yeah, it seems like there's too many starships.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this week we are pivoting back from our patron episode about Andor. And this week we're going to the Rebel Alliance for a classic ship.
The A-Wing. Classic indeed. Looks cool. Terrible to fly. If anybody knows, if you're playing Star Wars Squadrons or even the Battlefront 2 games or even the old Battlefront 2 games, they're great.
Yep.
Look cool in ships. They do not hold up very well at all.
No, they do not. No, they do not.
They're better than TIEs.
That's true.
They're still better than TIEs, but not by much, in my opinion.
They're only better than TIEs because they have shields, and the Rebellion doesn't consider their pilots just an expendable resource.
Yes, agreed. But let's get into the legends of things, like always, with the history and then into the development of the A-Wing. General Jane Dodonna, after action review of the Battle of Yavin, affirmed the value of the Alliance starfighters, but also highlighted Alliance starfighters that a simple trio of TIE fighters had almost foiled the trench run. Which, if you go back and watch A New Hope, yeah, literally 3 TIEs almost botched the entire operation. If it wasn't for the Millennium Falcon to come back, they would have been done.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Dodonna planned to create a dedicated Alliance interceptor in anticipation of a similar analysis by the Imperial Navy. Indeed, Sonar Fleet Systems accelerated work on the updated TIE interceptor, which would be a match for the A-Wing speed. To design the starfighter, Dodonna turned to Walex Blissex, famed ex-Kuwait Systems engineer. Billix brought valuable experience from work from the Clone Wars area Delta 7 Aetherspite class light interceptor and the Alpha 3 interceptors, which those are the Jedi interceptors that we see in the Clone Wars. Those are the starfighters that the Jedi use.
Yeah.
The pair are based on initial designs on the R-22 Spearhead, already nicknamed by the pirates of the A-Wing, per the wing naming convention, the other rebel craft of which the two fought on Yavin, obviously being the X and the Y-Wing. They formed Alliance Underground Engineering and worked with the pilot Jake Farrell in improving the Tamazan design, and was additionally based off the Delta 7, which is the Delta 7 is the triangle looking Jedi Starfighter. So if you ever played the old game, literally, I think it's just called Jedi Starfighter, the game, Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. It's literally the cover art. It is literally the yellow triangle ship.
Interesting.
Dodonna and Billix presented a proposal to Chief of State Mon Mothma for official support. It was ill-timed. The victory of the Yavin indicated open rebellion in thousands of worlds, resulting in widespread imperial suppression. The alliance was scattered, and insignificant funds for the proposed A-Wing program. Nevertheless, Dodonna, famed for his role at Yavin, made a denial difficult, and Mon Mothma approved with reduced funding. So it kicked off in Legends. It kicked off with a very low budget, needless to say.
Yep.
So we go to the early production now. You had something, Teacup?
Oh no, I was just saying that's interesting. It's just interesting with Mon Mothma's approved with reduced funding, just because the brief interactions we get with her kind of shed more light on her character of, I'm trying to hold this together and everyone is making my life difficult. So here's some money, but shut up about it.
Pretty much. So with the early production, the reduced budget forced Dodonna and Billix to substantially modify the original design. Billix redraft and use components readily available from Ordnance and Supply Command, pushing each beyond factory specifications. The earliest A-Wings were hand-assembled at Alliance facilities like Cardooning and the Chardon shipyards. This resulted in interesting modifications. Some fighters incorporated actual wood furnishings for the cockpit interior, such as the one in the Rogue Squadron pilot. Tycho Sochu flew during the Battle of Endor. That had to have been the most uncomfortable, like, I don't know, like, furnishings. I don't know if they're talking about, like, just the chair, or if they're talking about, like, what your dashboard would be kind of thing. But
I would assume that they are talking about, like, the frame and dashboard, like it's a frame wood, like, with metal, which just seems impractical.
Right.
With what I know about, like, space travel.
Electric fires. For a good example.
Electric fires, heated plasma, lasers hitting that, even just atmosphere entry.
Just the heat, coming out, How that had a bit, that's such impractical.
I just don't think it, even if with reinforced with certain metal things, I just don't think it would hold up.
Even though I don't know if the A-Wings were even compatible with the atmospheric entry, honestly. But we'll find out.
You can fly them in the first Battlefront game ever.
True.
When you saw.
In 0 ABY, the soaring Dactylians were assigned for the prototypes to fly the Cardoon's rebel base. After a week, they came under attack by the Empire, and the Dactylians flew the fighter in battle. Although they proved that the starfighter had superb qualities, only 2 of the pilots survived. Which is sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, only 2 pilots survived the attack on the Death Star.
True that. That's true as well. More serious was the slow production rate, allowing the fielding of a few squadrons. Only one full unit, Green Squadron, was presented at the Battle of Endor in 4 ABY. Elsewhere, A-wings were issued to a handful of cracked units, like the Nomad Squadron and Pash Kraken's wing. The combination of hand assembly and second-hand components, density of the complex systems, and the general lack of quality control aggravated maintenance. The A-Wing had the second worst maintenance to flight ratio in the Alliance fleet in 3 ABY.
Now I want to know what the first one is.
Right.
When was the first one? I mean, it's not the X-Wing, because part of the X-Wing was that it could be mass-produced.
And
then
the Y-Wing, maybe?
Maybe the Y-Wing, but it's not an exact, like... They're not exactly taking it's like the BTY wing, which is the one in the Republic during the Clone Wars. They're like adapting it. So I feel like it's a different model. Maybe the B-Wing? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, the B-Wing might. So the operational development... the Rebel Alliance acquired some A-Wings at some point after the Battle of Yavin, which they eventually used for the first time when ambushed by Imperial forces in the Isun Corridor. The first Alliance raids using A-Wings surprised Imperial forces, which they had been unable to penetrate the veil of secrecy over the Interceptor's development. The Rebels' Rogue Squadron employed A-Wings during the search for the starship Noah. Around 6 months after the Battle of Yavin, the squadron also employed it during the battle above Tal'Ryan. Wedge Antilles flew it during a raid on Bespin and flew the Starfighter during a strike on Destrilian. Rebel pilot Ace Ozaman also flew the A-Wing during the number of missions with the Alliance fleet. A lone A-Wing pilot by Arvel Krynid played a major role when it helped destroy the Star Dreadnought Execure during the Battle of Endor by ramming it into the bridge, causing the entire ship to crash into the second Death Star.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I always thought, I didn't understand that, really, when I was watching Return of the Jedi for the first time. I was like, they just crashed into a small part. Why does that take out the Executor? It's because it took out the bridge, and my 6-year-old self couldn't understand that.
Yeah, same as me. It was like, oh, that's cool explosions. Oh, look, the big ship went bloom. Whoa.
But I still feel like all of like the engineering components would still like be there, like the stabilizers and all that. If all of those are on the bridge, like the main system controls for all of that are on the bridge, what happens if there's a power outage?
You're screwed.
Maybe it does cause a thing, but because it's so close to the Death Star's gravity pulls it in.
Possibly.
Maybe that's fine. Though I'm trying to explain Star Wars, and that's always a failed endeavor.
Yeah, there's no explanation. It's just the only explanation is the Force, and that's all you need.
The Force.
The A-Wing was also used by the Alliance successor as Galactic Government, the New Republic, and 8 ABY Rogue Squadron pilot Tycho Selchu led Surprise Squadron to capture led Surprise Squadron at the capture of Kuwait. Their A-Wings were equipped with I can't talk today. Experimental iron torpedoes. The mission was a success, and the massive shipyards orbiting Kuwait fell into the New Republic hands.
I have to know. Does Surprise Squadron yell surprise when they go into battle?
Oh, God. That is a very good question, and now I'm only thinking of Samuel Jackson saying it.
Oh, yeah,
it's not
surprise.
Jackson.
It's
oh God, what movie is it? But
it's It's not a movie. It's Dexter.
Oh, it's Dexter?
Yeah. Um, it happens one time. I think it's towards the end of season one or something. But Dexter gets caught by one of the detectives. He is black, so with that
Yeah.
since then he
It's in the
says,
shipyards and he says, surprise.
and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
hysterical. That's all I think now. It's like, oh my god, that'd be great to be in Surprise Squadron. Anyway, the A-wings also participated in the attack on Mon Calamari, where several were destroyed by world devastators, which were the successors to the Star Destroyers. In 13 ABY, A-wings were stationed on Coruscant. Gold-striped craft escorted Kur Kano's shuttle to a landing pad where it entered restricted airspace near the Royal Palace. A-wings were also assigned to General Han Solo's fleet to mop up operations around the time. A contingent of A-wings were also carried on board on Mon Calamari's star cruiser, captained by Lar Nido, who was assigned to Solo's fleet and was detached to reconnector the planetoid. This is a doozy. RZ7-6113-23. The A-wings fought off attacking and restored Empire V-wing starfighters during the essential battle over the planetoid. Later, after the peace treaty with the Galactic Empire, A-wings were flown by pilots of Kip's dozens to hunt smugglers before the squadron was decimated by Yuzhong Vaughn pilots. And let me tell you, Yuzhong Vaughn are no laughing matter. If you think like the First Order or like anything we see in the prequels were like devastating, the Yuzhong Vaughn were 15 times worse.
Their ships were organic.
Everything of theirs was organic. Their weapons too. It was terrifying. They were force resistant. On top of that, where the Sith and the Jedi had to actually come together to fight them because they were both beginning blows by the Yuzhong Vaughn terribly.
Yep.
It was that bad. It's a great storyline. Very, very dark. In 44 ABY, 2 A-wings were assigned to the Galactic Alliance Starfighter Command contingent at Skiffer Station orbiting Kuruatween. How many tweens do we need in Star Wars?
I think they're all in the same system.
Tatooine and Dantooine aren't.
Oh, I guess that's true.
They're on opposite sides.
Did you know there's Tatooine and Tattoo 2 or something like that?
Dear God, why? Oh, God. Though has been designed to defend immobile stations or slow-moving Alliance starships from starfighter raids, the A-Wing was pressed into service as a quick strike fighter as part of the post-Yavin Alliance strategy of guerrilla warfare, which makes sense during the time when they were used for the Rebel Alliance. That's all the Rebel Alliance was doing was guerrilla warfare. I mean, that's the best thing to do if you're fighting with the low numbers against a vast majority. Using an impressive straight-line acceleration advanced jamming package, A-wings were able to hit targets before they could respond and then flee before the defense could ever be organized. Wish I could do that in squadrons. I can't. This change found its apex in a devastating tactic known as the A-Wing Slash, which was developed by General Garm Bel Iblis. A group of X-Wings were approaching the Imperial convoy hiding a number of A-Wings, and their drive exhaust. The A-Wings would then pull apart, dividing attention away from the speedy A-Wings, which could launch HM-6 concussive missiles against the convoy and pull away. The A-Wings also found reconnaissance missions were become a favorite among fleet intelligence and alliance intelligence operatives. For its speed, a team of A-Wing could exit hyperspace near an Imperial objective Begin jamming enemy sensors, draw scans and holographic imagery, and then retreat before being detected. If it was detected, the pilots would easily outrun any pursuers, ensuring the safety of the pilot and the intelligence.
I think you actually do that in the Squadrons campaign.
I think.
You're flying. It's one of the missions that defaults you to the A-Wing.
I don't think I've gotten that far.
No.
I need to play more of that game. While the A-Wing became popular, the hit and fade raids and reconnaissance duty, it was required to operate from a nearby base of operations or carrier ship because of the navigational computer's limitations, which could only store coordinates for 2 hyperspace jumps before requiring calibration. That is terrible. Only 2 hyperspace jumps? The TIE Interceptor.
It's real small.
It is true. That's true. It is small. The TIE Interceptor, better known as the TIE/IN Interceptor, better known as the TIE Interceptor, was perhaps the Empire's closest equivalent to the A-Wing. The Interceptor had 2 more laser cannons and better agility when give it to the edge of the dogfight, but its lack of shields and warhead launchers limited its durability and tactical usage. The Interceptor was, like all mass production TIEs, generally available in large numbers, but A-Wing pilots tend to be more skilled and they have higher survival rates than the Interceptor counterparts.
Again, that's because the Rebellion doesn't view them as an expendable resource.
Yep, and the Empire sucks.
I really like...
when it comes to their mass production of things in human life, or any life.
And their tendency to build orb-shaped space stations that destroy planets.
That too.
But I do like that Andor bringing a little light into the Empire's incompetence and framing it as arrogance.
Yes.
I love that whole speech he gives.
It's like, oh, this makes more sense now.
Yeah. They're not just incompetent. We still don't know why stormtroopers can't aim, but...
Well, we kind of got that from Rebels with Rex. You can't see through the helmet.
I guess. Well, then how are clone troopers so accurate?
Because the armor was better. I don't know. Well,
they changed the armor to be worse?
I mean, you also have to put in where clones are bred soldiers. The Empire just took any Joe off the street just to increase their numbers. Just to have... And most people just signed up to be in the Empire just so they could get something to survive on.
That's true. That's true.
So, in a pure chase, A-Wings could outrun the Interceptor. However, this was the only if the A-Wing was undamaged. Later, Imperial starfighters such as the TIE Avenger and the TIE Defender in the missile boat were easily more than a match for the A-Wing. However, they were never mass-produced due to the turmoil in the Imperial Navy. And that's what we got in Legends. Fun stuff.
Interesting. Well, let's go to our break and then we can get in.
Sweet.
All right. Well, welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all things that have to do with the podcast, but not the lore of Star Wars. It is now that I thank our patrons. Thank you so much for your support. And you too can support us by going to patreon.com/holocronhistories and signing up for one of our tiers that get you all kinds of benefits, from just ad-free episodes to coming on the show with us and once a month and hanging out with us like we did last week. And so if you want to do that, you can go on to patreon.com and sign up, and we greatly appreciate all that support. Another great way to support us is to leave us a rating or review on Spotify, and that really helps boost our podcast and lets other people know, hey, this is a great show. And if you leave us a 5-star review with words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. And so we do have a review to read today. This comes from King Cobra 00 and says, great show. Love the show. I wish there was an episode on the origin of the First Order, their ships, their troops, and Kylo Ren. Also, an episode on Mando and his weapons. I guess to all of those things, we will cover those
we
things.
will at some point. That is for
If
sure.
you do want some First Order content, I do believe we go briefly into details on our Empire episode.
Yes.
Back in the early, yeah.
Yep.
So, but we might give them their own episode for a little more.
Mm-hmm. With more, and this goes with the comics, with more stuff being developed specifically for like the newer comics, some that deal with the First Order when the sequels are still coming out, and then Mando is actually now getting comics. So,
yeah,
which I think, no, I don't know. I might actually have the first issue right here. I do. But yeah, they're still expanding more of that, and then we can Mando season 3 next year. So
yeah,
more to come.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much for that review, and you too can support us by leaving reviews or ratings on Apple or Spotify. The last thing I want to talk about is you can come hang out with us on Discord. You can hang out with us on the Cups Podcasting and More Discord server, which is where to hang out for all of podcasts that I am on, whether that's with Ben or with my other co-host, She Cup. You can check those out. That's the Assassin's Creed Lorecast, the Dragon Age Lorecast, and the Inheritance Page by Page podcast. Join that Discord. You can hang out with Ben and I, talk about Star Wars, talk about everything. You can also find us on the Robots Radio Discord, where it's just the place to be for podcasts about video games or nerdy fandom things. If you're looking for a podcast about one of those things, the Robots Radio place is a place to be there. And you can find great shows like the Mass Effect Lorecast or the Witcher Lorecast, which Ben is often on.
I'm on there, like, I've been on every Patreon episode now that I think about it.
Yeah. So.
And you can also find my other podcast, Wizard and World Lorecast, where we go in the deep dive of the Harry Potter universe and all the lore of that. Right now, we're deep diving into the magic of the world, and soon we are going to go into wand lore, which is pretty heavy.
The wand chooses the wizard. There,
it does. It does.
That's it. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
Yes.
No, there is more.
Yes. All right. Yeah, and you can check out all of those shows. And yeah, greatly appreciate that. All right. Well, let's get back into it.
Sweet. Did you hear it this time?
No.
Oh, man, what happened?
Maybe it's my end.
That's interesting. Well, I'm sorry. These sound effects, I don't know what's up with them. You hear the other ones, right?
Yeah, I hear the blasters. I just don't hear the screen.
You just don't hear the Wilhelm. Maybe the blasters just overtake the Wilhelm or something. I don't know. But now since we're back, we're going to go back into the canon of things. So the pre-Galactic Civil War, so this is during, obviously, the Clone Wars saga. The RZ-1 was based off the original R-22 prototype developed and replacement for the Republic's Aether Sprite starfighter. Rejected by the Empire, Rebel cells acquired several R-22s and stripped them down to boost this fighter's speed and acceleration to counter the Empire's new TIE/IN interceptor. These RZ-1s would come to play in the role of the Alliance victory at Endor. And then some of the earliest uses of the RZ-1 included use of forces security allied with Bail Organa 1 year after Order 66. Years after, a group of A-Wing fighters were part of Commander Jun Sato's Phoenix Cell, which is part of a larger rebellion. So, Star Wars Rebels right there is where Jun Sato comes from. During the time of the early rebellion, approximately 2 years after the Battle of Yavin, an RZ-1T trainer was used by the Jedi Padawan Ezra Bridger and Jedi Knight Kanan Jarrus to save their friends from the former Sith Lord Maul, delivering him a Sith holocron at Vizsla Keep 09.
Interesting.
And then now we get the Galactic Civil War. During the Galactic Civil War, the RZ-1 A-Wings were used by the Alliance in early battles against Imperial forces and soon proved themselves as compatible fighters thanks to the track record The Alliance attained a number of A-Wings and modified them, removing their heavy weapons and shields in order to make them fast enough in combat for new generation Imperial TIE fighters. The resulting modified A-Wings used by the Rebels were faster than the TIE Interceptor. So they stripped the heavy weapons and shields? What? That doesn't sound right. I think they kept some shields. They would have to. These modified
removing
A-Wings...
and shields. No shields.
Huh. Maybe that's why I always blow up when I use an A-Wing.
No, you have shields in the squadrons, though.
Oh, so it's only a game mechanic. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's okay. Weird. These modified A-Wings were deployed to the Alliance fleet at the Battle of Endor. There, under Lando Calrissian's command, Green Squadron flew against the second Death Star. Once Han Solo's strike team brought the Death Star shield generator, 2 A-Wing pilots flew into the Death Star but broke off to draw TIE fighters away from Calrissian. Green leader Arvel Krynid was hit by fire and crashed into the bridge of the Super Star Destroyer Executor, resulting in this destruction. And then A-Wings were also employed at the Battle of Jakku. So between the two, canon and legends, Arvel Krynid is in both. Obviously, because of Return of the Jedi.
Yep. Whether you're Legends canon or Disney canon, movies are still canon.
Exactly. And then the legacy of the A-Wing. After the RZ-1's decisive role in the Battle of Endor, Kuwait resurrected its forgotten prototype to create the RZ-2, standardizing years of field modifications and making the chassis slimmer and longer to yield more speed. These RZ-2s came in use by the Resistance during the war against the First Order.
So they are used by their... I couldn't remember if we ever see them in battle in the movies. I can't remember if they're at the Battle of Exegol or the assault on Starkiller Base.
I'm pretty sure we see them at least in the Exegol fight at the Rise of Skywalker. I don't know about the Starkiller Base. We don't. It's a group of all X-Wings.
Right, and there's no fighter. There are hardly any starfighters in Last Jedi at all.
Yes.
But that's also true for Empire.
That's also true. Yes.
You have the
space dogfights.
The snow speeders. Yeah, snow speeders is it.
And then Luke's X-Wing when he's flying around, but that's it.
Right. It also just reminded me of how little that actually happens in The Last Jedi. Like, it's a 2.5 hour movie. But not a lot happens.
Nope. Anyway, moving away from that.
That's a fact. You can think about it what you want, but it's a fact.
It's true. Now we get to the characteristics of the A-Wing. So the RZ-1 A-Wing starfighter was a quick, powerful strike fighter manufactured by Kuwait Systems Engineering, influenced the designs of the Republic starfighter flown during the Clone Wars, and based off the R-22 prototype. The RZ-1 A-Wing was the result of Rebel engineers seeking to improve upon the original design's speed, weaponry, and defenses. In modifying the A-Wing, the Rebels first sought to equip it with a hyperdrive. They then realized they could swap out the original sublight engines mounted on the stern for 2 massive, more powerful Event Horizon models that made it faster than the TIE Interceptor. The original hull, weapons, and deflector system was also swapped out for a lightweight material and components, essentially a cockpit with 2 engines. The RZ-1 was a fast and maneuverable. It was a challenge to pilot even for someone with Jedi-like reflexes. That's impressive. If a Jedi is having issues flying an A-Wing, that is very impressive to do.
Why are they so bad in the games?
Good question.
No, I think it really has to do with that the interceptors and the A-Wings are designed for dogfighting, fighter to fighter, and whenever I play squadrons, I am, okay, let me destroy all the big ships.
Yeah, at that point, just fly a bomber.
Yeah. That's what I end up doing.
That's what I do. I end up flying a bomber or I'm a fighter. I don't use an interceptor. It's just yeah, cool. They're fast. You're just on your way of faster get blowing up.
Yep.
This challenge is due to the fact that there was no room left for fit an astromech droid within the limited space of the A-Wing's hull. Flying the RZ-1 was not only required precision manipulation of the dorsal and vertical stabilizers, but also the thrust vector controls built into the engines and the thruster control jets located between the engines, all without assistance from an astromech. Yeah, that already sounds terrible to fly.
Okay, this is another mechanic thing. So A-Wings don't have an astromech on them. Y-Wings and X-Wings do. How does the A-Wing have a repair ability in squadrons?
Game mechanics.
Game mechanics, yeah.
That's the only reason we have
It's because if it didn't, the forums would just be full of people talking about it's unfair.
True. That's true. So as such, only the best pilots could fly the A-Wing without losing control. Also well renowned for its speed, and the ship was bemoaned for frequent breakdowns, being prone to thrust decalibrations and compromised power losses. Beyond requiring more post-flight maintenance checks than any other Rebel fighter, the A-Wings were also notorious for the unusually cramped cockpit. So, retrospect, it breaks down a lot, and you need short people to fly the A-Wing. Essentially.
So
the A-Wing was also equipped with 2 laser cannons that could carry up to 12 consecutive missiles, while standard Borsal galactic defense models, the laser cannons were carried on a special vectored cannon system, allowing a greater firing arc during flight. Some A-Wings mounts were modified to provide full 360 rotation, but also made more prone to jamming, especially since when used to fire rearward, each cannon would also mat to a low-powered targeting laser. So don't do a 360 model or you're losing firepower. A Surplex deflector shield generator is also carrying the A-Wing, but the projector located on the small blister between the transparasteel canopy and it used lightweight Durasteel armor to protect the titanium alloy frame. While chosen for their weight, their defenses could keep the pilot's presence safe from harm. In one instance, a smart mine detonated less than 12 meters from an A-Wing with enough destructive force to devastate a city block. Okay. So they are a lot more capable than a TIE fighter. Just one mine would destroy the TIE fighter.
I want to go back to the 360 rotation. So does that mean that spinning is not a good trick in an A-Wing?
Spinning in a 360 circle, no.
Just gonna
and when you're like doing like a freaking corkscrew, that's a different story.
It was a joke, Ben.
Oh, wow. No, 360 is bad. That went over my head completely.
Spinning? Let's try spinning. That's a good trick. Nubian Starfighter.
Oh. God. See, I'm tired.
Ben.
Oh, and yes, the Jedi Interceptor was nice in Lego Star Wars. That is true.
I might have to take away. You might have lost a notch on your Star Wars card.
I'll get it back.
All right, yeah, probably.
While the Starfighter itself was wrecked and would require several days to expense repairs, the pilot was recovered with no injuries. The gap in the reinforcement front or wedge of the A-Wing served as a towing slot when necessary. Well, that's nice. The original R-22's transparasteel canopy was also modified or mounted on a hinge that allowed it to be lifted and tilted back for the pilot. While this feature was kept on some RZ1s, others were modified that can be slid forward and back on special tracks.
Wait,
So
now I need to know, is the A-wing doing the towing or is it being towed? Because it's in the front.
I would say the one being towed.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, we've all established that it's lightweight and small and basically has nothing in it. It's basically like the race car version of Starfighter. And how's it towing anything?
Right. Many pilots preferred this system, which nonetheless was more prone to malfunctioning than the simple hinge and required additional maintenance. Oh, great. Something that all the freaking everybody loved. It breaks down. Oh boy. So like the canopy chair going back and forth on a track, most pilots preferred that. But because of that, with the difficulty of the track, it breaks down more often, so that's more repairs has to be done for the A-wing.
I'm not impressed with the A-wing.
I'm not either.
Even a little bit.
The A-wing was also notable for carrying a 4X Phantom short-range sensor jammer. A-wing sensor jammers were powerful units which drew energy directly from their engines, though larger ship sensors would be able to burn through the interference. God, they were capable of completely jamming other starfighter sensors and communications. Which, that is a game mechanic in Squadrons. You can jam sensors of like missiles and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Countermeasure. Deploy countermeasures. That's what it's called in Squadrons.
Yes. The A-Wing was ideal for missions that required speed, hit-and-run raids, surgical strikes on capital ships, and intelligence gathering missions. A compatible pilot could emerge from hyperspace, engage the fighter's powerful suite of imagers and sensors, streak around the objective at top speed, and vanish back into hyperspace, all while enemy ground crews scrambled to get fighters airborne. They're like dive in, shoot a bunch of things, explode things, and then go up and disappear.
You know, we kind of see this with X-Wings in Rogue One when they're assaulting the science, but like the X-Wings like jump out of hyperspace, come down to the planet, bomb, and then are gone before anything can really happen. So I'm sure with an A-Wing, it's even faster.
And then during the early rebellion against the Galactic Empire, a trainer variant of the A-Wing called the RZ-1T was developed when used trained spying rebel pilots. In addition to the pilot seat, the model was also featured a seat for an instructor.
Where? How?
Behind the seat, I guess? I don't know. I think we see it in... We don't see it in the films, obviously.
No.
I think we see it in Rebels.
Maybe. Maybe Kanan and Ezra both fly in an A-Wing some way. I don't know, man. It's my same issue of like why I don't want to drive a smart car is because I feel like I'm sitting on the engine.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and if anything goes wrong with the engine, like there's no escape for me. In a car wreck in a smart car, it's the same thing.
No. There's nothing between you and the engine. And it's like, oh, if I hit head on, oh well.
Guess I'll die.
So, and then last but not least, we have behind the scenes. So the A-Wing appears in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, designed by Ralph McQuarrie. They were originally colored blue, but had a change due to the limit blue screen technology at the time. The original coloration of the A-Wings makes its first appearance on the A-Wings of Phoenix Group in the second season of Star Wars Rebels. So they go from blue to red because obviously blue screen technology. And then when Star Wars Rebel comes around, and second season was 2015, I think.
Something like that.
they go back to their blue coloring because, CGI technology and the stuff we got in 2015.
That's why the Resistance fighters are blue.
Mm-hmm. Because technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. The original Star Wars Legends backstory for the craft has them being designed and fielded after the Battle of Yavin, but their appearance in Ahsoka places them surfaces 18 years before the Battle of Yavin. The Legends backstory served partly as an in-universe explanation of why the A-Wing fighters created for Return of the Jedi did not participate in the attack of the first Death Star. But, I mean, a lot of things from the original trilogy were, like, somewhat retconned.
Yeah. I think it just happens that...
Even before Disney took over, really.
I think it happens... The Ahsoka is the book that's by E.K. Johnston. I think that it just happens that they're not in wide use. And there are not a lot of A-Wings at the Battle of Endor. There's just one real squadron.
Right, correct.
Most of them are flying X-Wings or some type of Y-Wings, a couple B-Wings. So I wouldn't really consider it a retcon. I'm just saying that, this is in development a little before. Yeah. Well, a lot before, but...
And then, however, in the new Star Wars canon, A-Wings are featured in material taking place well before the Battle of Yavin and have been given earlier origins. The production team of the Star Wars Rebels television series explained that the intention is to depict different Rebel cells using different fighters in different parts of the galaxy. The A-Wings appear as primary starfighters of the Phoenix Squadron and Rebels, while the Rebel cell led by Jan Dordana was portrayed in Star Wars A New Hope using primarily X-Wings and Y-Wings. So they weren't necessarily retcon, they were just in a different part of the galaxy at the time of the attack of the first Death Star. John Dordana was the leader for the fighter teams in New Hope, while Jun Sato was the leader of Phoenix Squadron, where they had all the A-Wings, which they were over by Lothal, which is...
Right.
Mid-rim?
Right, yeah.
And the Death Star was out in the Outer Rim, I believe.
I think Lothal is... If it's mid-rim, it's, very, very the end of the mid-rim.
Mm-hmm. I think it's mid-rim. I can't remember on the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And the Battle of Endor, intended to show the first time the entire Rebel Alliance comes together, therefore includes both sets of the ships. This allows Rebels producers to do more with the A-Wings, which were not shown in action very much in Return of the Jedi.
I am 90% sure we see A-Wings in Rogue One on the Battle of Jakku. Or not Jakku, Scarif. The Battle of Scarif.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So maybe that's it. I kind of think the Rebel, the Battle of Endor is the first time the Rebel Alliance really comes together. I guess maybe, but the way that they're portrayed, at least in the movies, after the Battle of Yavin, the Rebel Alliance is kind of in one spot, really. But I guess we won't know unless we get more Rebels content in comics or stuff that show them after the Battle of Lothal.
I do not know. I'm not seeing the A-Wing being up in Rogue One.
Oh, well, maybe it's not. Maybe they're having attention to detail like that.
But I do know they do take place in Exegol. I do remember that.
Yes.
They had almost every ship that we've seen in Star Wars in the Exegol fight.
Yes.
Which is great. But that is all we got for the A-Wing.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening on the Holocron History Podcast.
And may the Force be with you.
Thank you for listening to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends. You can find us on the Robots Radio Discord at robotsradio.net You can also follow us on Twitter at SWHoloHistories and contact us at holocronhistories@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you, everybody who is in chat, for watching. That's always fun to stream these.
Thank you. I do have to go. I have dinner waiting for me. So
dinner's important. So
yes.
we will both see everybody next week.
Yes. All right. Deal.
See you.